morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and thanks for stopping by. Our dedicated team will guide you through with the latest updates and theories at Starbase, Texas. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon for future streams.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Starbase Weekly live stream. My name is Zach Golden. Happy to be here with all of you today. Today is a very special episode. Those of you who saw my post on X, this is actually the 200th flyover that we've done of Starbase. So really excited to reach that milestone. It's actually kind of crazy to think about. I don't even know if I've taken 200 flights in my entire life. So doing 200 flyovers of Starbase to take these images since I think 2019 is the earliest I have, at least, of flyover images of Starbase. So, yeah, crazy milestone. And, here's for several more years of that to come, as long as there's things to cover. So really excited to be able to go through these images with y'all today. And for those of you, I know there was some gifted memberships before the show started. So those of you who received any of those gifted memberships, if you're unfamiliar with that, you will have access to all of the images that we're covering today. So that's really awesome. If you would like to go through them yourself, if there's anything that you want to see closer that we don't, spend enough time on, you're more than welcome to go through those and then bring questions here. Well, I guess you might as well do that during the show if you would like. Yeah, we also do the show and tells before or shortly after the flyovers. This flyover in particular was on Monday this week, so a lot has happened since then, but there's still a ton to cover. But yeah, the membership also gives you access to the Discord server where you can hop into those show and tell sessions and ask questions through the voice chat instead of through the text chat in the live stream. So really awesome benefit of becoming a member. And with that said, given that this is the 200th flyover, I want to thank everybody who has supported the RGV channel throughout this time, both new and longtime members. Really want to thank you all for allowing us to continue doing this. So with that, I'll go ahead and get into the show. This week we have Alex joining me. Alex, thanks for being here.
Thank you, as always. It should be a great show, and thanks for all the support I can't believe it's been 200 episodes either, Zach.
Right. Yeah, and always really grateful to have Alex here. Lately, especially while I'm either at work or working on episodes, sometimes it's hard for me personally to keep up with everything to the detail that I have in the past. So especially with some of the GSE stuff going on, which happens to be my favorite. Alex is really good at keeping up with all of that stuff. So really appreciate your input in these live streams. Joining us also today, we will have Astro Joe handling all of the questions and donations. Astro Joe, welcome.
Indeed. Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, my friends around the world. All right, let's enjoy the show. Thanks, everybody, for all the support over these 200 flights.
Awesome. And yeah, so this week or this coming week, we are looking forward to the 8th test flight of Starship. Hoping for a better outcome than the last one. Everything, as y'all know, went pretty much perfectly with the booster, but we did have a breakup of the ship over the Indian Ocean, actually not over the Indian Ocean, over Turks and Caicos, so didn't quite make it anywhere near as far as it was supposed to. But there's been a lot of progress on SpaceX's side. Of course, we don't have all the details as far as everything that they were testing for it. We do have a little bit of information that was shared by, there's a few people. I don't think Elon actually spoke about it. Shanna Diaz, is that how you say her name? She did some posts both before and after that static fire. So we actually were well aware that 60-second static fire test was going to happen thanks to her hints that she was giving out. There's pretty good reasoning for why they did that. And also, those of you who've been watching the show for the last several months kind of know knew in advance what enabled them to perform that 60-second static fire test. And I guess with that, we might as well go ahead and move over to the Massey's test site. And I'll just go over it briefly for those who may not be aware of this. But yeah, so over the last few months, I guess this was completed probably about 3 weeks ago now, they upgraded the liquid nitrogen storage tank for the water deluge system. So this is a basically pressure-fed system where they're vaporizing liquid nitrogen into gaseous nitrogen through inside of these heat exchangers, and they use that to force the water out. So essentially, the amount of heat exchangers they have here kind of controls the volumetric flow rate of water out of here. So they do have a position for one extra heat exchanger. So in the future, I imagine when they move over to Raptor 3, which will probably have a significantly higher thrust output, they may end up putting that additional heat exchanger in here just to increase the flow rate of water to kind of match that additional thermal energy that's being dumped into that trench. So yeah, this is we kind of had some feelings that maybe this was just to allow them to perform tests in more rapid succession, but it seems like it did actually enable them to perform longer tests as well too. So 60 seconds is quite a long time. To be 100% honest with you, I didn't believe that these water tanks could store enough water for a 60-second test, but that kind of gives you an idea of how much they use during a normal. What do I think the normal ones are? Probably about 10 seconds, if that. So, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was agreeing with you.
Yeah. So, with those types of tests, it seems like they could do at least 6 of them in a row before needing to replenish the water and nitrogen. So that's a good piece of information for us to know, and really crazy being able to actually see them do a minute-long static fire test. I'm kind of hoping we see something like that with the booster in the future, but I highly doubt they'll ever do that. But one of the big things that a lot of people were wondering was whether or not the actual flame trench walls would hold up to an extended test like that. And I've kind of been looking at these images from different angles. Alex and I in particular have been hoping that they would do something to protect these walls a little bit more. And this is actually a great image because you can actually kind of see the condition of that sidewall. I unfortunately don't have any pictures for us to compare what it initially looked like, but you can kind of see a little bit of spalling damage on the side of this, which I don't remember these columns being visible here before. Sure they were, but they were nowhere near as visible as they are right now. So I don't know. I'm hoping in the future we do see some sort of steel plating along the walls of this, and if not here, then definitely on the orbital launch mount flame trench. That will be, in my opinion, a good thing to have some steel plating on those walls just to protect that concrete. Either that or on the orbital launch mount surrounding the deluge system or the pancake booster bidet, whatever you want to call it, there is a ring of Fondag, which is a high strength concrete that is better suited for these types of things. I would not be surprised to eventually see them put that on the wall. It would be a little bit. They actually do have spray-on applications for those as well too. I know they use that in some places, so it wouldn't necessarily require them to actually drill through the wall and put rebar along the wall in order to support that. Although probably a good idea to do it anyways. But yeah, something we may see in the future, I think, especially on Pad B.
All the wicking of the water between is damaging since that water will vaporize and really accelerates the spalling. All the dark
you're
seams.
talking about Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they're aware of it. I'm guessing they probably think it's fine for now and are coming up with a plan to address it in the future. But I don't know. Sometimes with these things, they tend to let the damage get to a point where they have no choice but to do something about it. In particular, like an example of that would be the base of the integration tower for Pad B. They, I think, went through 3 launches before they decided to protect that. 3 launches and half a dozen static fire tests before they actually ended up protecting that. So I would expect to see some similar protection on the side of this as well too.
Yeah, it's not going to last.
It's held up pretty well so far, though. I mean, for what they're putting it through, I imagine, like I was saying before, with when they move to Raptor 3, that's probably going to force them to have to do something about it. I mean, it's not to say that they're going to use 100% thrust when they're doing that static fire test with the upgraded engines, but in general, even if they're only doing what is their deep throttle limitation? Is it 40%?
Yeah.
Yeah. So 40% is still, 40% with Raptor 3 is still higher than 40% with Raptor 2. So one way or another, they're going to be pushing a lot higher thermal energy through this this trench opening. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see what they go ahead.
Not to mention when they add the 3 more vacuum Raptors.
Yeah, very good point. Very good point. I almost forget about that because it doesn't seem real. I know they will eventually, but it's just, man, I almost would have hoped that we would see it by now, but I guess they have not yet reached that point. What do you think that'll be on version 3 of the ship?
Yeah, definitely by 3. I was hoping they would update it for this block, but no.
Right. And actually, I will show something here really quickly that I just received in the background. This will be taking a little bit of a step backwards, but it's still worth showing. As we were talking about at the beginning of the show, with this being the 200th flyover, this is right here from the first flyover, actually. So thank you for sending that to me. This is really cool. I actually remember when this came out. But this is the launch site right here. And I believe this one is, April, what is that, July? So I guess the first one was actually in 2018, not 2019. So sorry about that. So you can see the progress on the suborbital test site about a year after that original video that we were looking at. So really crazy just to see the progress that's happened within this time. I do wonder if Mauricio at the time knew that he would end up doing it for as long as he has, or if it was just kind of a, spur of the moment type thing initially. But yeah, really, really awesome resource to have. I think all of us can agree we're very grateful for it.
Absolutely.
Awesome. And you can see this on the channel as well, too. I believe it's posted. It's probably pretty far back considering how many flyovers he's done. But yeah, still visible on the channel if you guys would like to check this out. I'll go ahead and move us back. So what else do we have going on at Sanchez? Massey's. I think we finally have answered a question that a lot of us have been wondering about for several months now. I believe at one point there was a small little circular frame that was visible over in this area right here that had a lot of people thinking they were about to start testing 35 engine boosters. But now we finally have an answer for what that structure was part of. And I'm surprised we didn't actually figure this out earlier, because we do have historical imagery of when they created the first one of these. But it looks like they're actually in the process of creating another booster test stand, and this is for the thrust puck testing. So basically structural testing of the engine mounts and the actual thrust puck. This is actually surprising to me that we're seeing this before another cryo stand for the ship, or even another static fire test stand for the ship. I'm not really sure what to make out of the fact that we're seeing this for the booster before the ship, considering that they're going to be eventually, probably before the end of this year, start to outpace the ship manufacturing will start to outpace booster manufacturing. So, do you have any thoughts on that, Alex?
The only thing, they might have shifted the engines a few degrees is because there's nothing much has changed on the from V1 to V2 boosters that I would think they would needed a whole new redesign of the thrust puck.
So, are you thinking that this is a redesign?
They probably offset the pistons on it is the only thing that I could think of. Because there's a slight rotation that would have changed the engine plume interactions with the ridge in the flame trench, but that's a reach.
Yeah, the one thing I was thinking of is a potential new position for the boosters QD, but I don't know if that would be enough to cause them to have to redo this whole thing, because as far as the bottom side of the booster goes, well, I would say it's mostly symmetrical, but I guess it's not. I guess it's not necessarily the same if you rotate it to different positions. The hydraulic actuators won't necessarily line up the same if you rotate the booster on that actual test stand. So that I wonder if that may have something to do with it. This could be preparation for V2 boosters.
Yeah, that's again probably the best shot we have of being accurate.
Yeah, this is a. Sorry, go ahead.
No, the QD definitely will probably be rotated on the V2s.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising though, because even with rotating it, I wonder if it's going to be a solid. Well, I guess it was initially saying if it was going to be 180 degrees or 90 degrees from its original position, then you could just rotate the whole stand. But I guess it's not going to be a square number like that, where it's do we have an idea of what that angle is going to be? The difference?
No, it would be about a 9-degree shift more than likely.
Did you say
Because it
9-degree
is,
shift?
yeah, it's because the outer are 18 degrees apart.
Right, but as far as the actual position of the QD on the booster, it'll be more like kind of over here, right?
It might be, or it's. I'm not 100% sure right now, because I did a sketch where it looks like they could keep it in the center line, but then it looks like we'll run into the same QD issues because they'll have to.
Right.
And I think this one, since it's being made out of this construction, will allow them to shift the actuators instead of being fairly fixed in place.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, if once they finish this one, they could just redo the other one, right? Or
It's
is there
what
something stopping them from doing that?
no, I think they probably have a few V1s left so they couldn't decommission it or rework it.
Yeah, and this is the other one right here. So basically, the mounting brackets for those actuators are sitting on top of embeds, and I'm guessing part of that reason that it would be difficult to redo this one is because you may not necessarily have embeds in the positions where you need them to be. So that could probably be part of the reason why they're having to build an entirely new one.
Yeah, and this new one, they've kept a complete steel surface and just filled the concrete and the void between the two layers.
Right. So instead of seeing the concrete layer on top right here, it's actually sandwiched in between, right?
Yeah, just like the legs of the integration tower. Might be a different shot without the tarp.
Yeah, they were moving that tarp around as this flyover was happening. Let's see if I can find that image. I had it up a minute ago. There we go.
There. Yeah, in the center, you can see the holes where they pump the concrete right to the left of your.
Or these ones.
Yeah.
And I guess with this being a steel base instead of concrete, basically the whole thing could function as an embed plate. So if they need to move it in the future, they can just cut them off and move them, right?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, very interesting. And I think this is probably our second sign of the booster QD being moved. The first would be what we're seeing at the launch site, which we'll get to a little bit later in the episode. But yeah, really awesome to see that progress. And on this note, we do finally have some of the first indications of V2 boosters on the way. We don't have any images from this flyover, obviously, but on Starship Gazer's Twitter page, which I may be able to find it quickly enough here, he did get some cool images looking inside of the Star Factory. And this was basically a cart that was being just temporarily stored here. I think they do this kind of stuff on purpose where they put things, because this could have easily been turned the other way where we would never see the sign. But I feel like they put it in this door because this is about as much as we can peep in on their manufacturing process is what we're seeing here. But the sign on this says, "Do not take. Cart will be used for 18.1 forward ring flange." So 18.1 would be for a booster, and that is basically a test tank essentially. So they're just like they did with the ship. They're probably going to be producing a test article for testing anything that's been changed on that booster. So this is probably, they're probably working on this forward ring right now, and this is basically what it's going to sit on top of once it's finished. So exciting news that we're getting closer to seeing those first V2 boosters. I guess for my own memory, is there a booster 17?
I thought they started stacking, or no?
I'm not sure. I know that so 15 is flying on this flight, and then 16 is currently is basically at the at Massey's right now. Obviously not in this image, but over the last few days it was moved over to Massey's. Currently doing cryo testing. I think it started cryo testing last night. So that's 16. And then we're actually expecting that booster 14 may potentially fly again, either on flight 9 or 10. So as far as I know, I think those were the last of the V1s, but unless there is a 17 currently.
There is booster 17 is being stacked in Mega Bay 1.
Okay, cool. Good to know. So with that said, we have 14, 15, 16, and 17. So 4 V1 boosters left. I guess you could kind of count booster 12 in there, but the chances of them reflying that are slim to none, I would say.
Yeah, it's gonna be lawn ornament.
I hope they actually keep it. I'm not getting my hopes up, but I think there's a good chance that they may keep it, especially with the pace of manufacturing probably going to be increasing here soon. They probably won't have the time or the space in Mega Bay 1 to actually scrap it anytime soon, so that's a good thing.
With lengths of time 14's been there, it looks like they're getting all the flight data from stresses from that rather than 12.
Yeah. Let's see, what else do we have going on over here? So I think they're doing some sort of expansion work or about to. They got some new stands over here. I'm not sure how long these have been here, but it looks like they're preparing for. These look similar to what they're doing at the launch site as far as with the cryo pumps. Any thoughts on these, Alex?
They're strange. There is some down by the lower end as well. These are three-legged. One of them's a three-legged stand, which Yeah, by the parking lot.
I may need to get a better.
3 to the right.
Oh, down here?
Yeah. But
Are
so
those the same? They look different than what we're seeing here, though.
they're the elevated one down there, it's about the same width as these two.
Okay.
So they all look like they're somewhat together. The
Right.
two large ones they don't have any legs yet, so those are a mystery.
Okay. Yeah, so we are at least expecting to see some new, or at least one new tank here soon. There are a bunch of tanks that are being shipped from KSC in Florida. And do we have a date when we're expecting those to arrive yet? I'm surprised I haven't heard anything about that.
I saw something, but I don't know if it had the arrival time listed.
Okay. Yeah, so at least one new tank here, but we're not really sure what that purpose is going to be. Do you have any thoughts? I was thinking maybe they may want to increase their methane storage by putting one large horizontal tank instead of these two vertical tanks.
Was my assessment as well. It's kind of unfortunate that they didn't do that from out of the gate.
Yeah, I think it may be just one of those things where they didn't have access to the tanks. And so, similar to what they did with the nitrogen tank, they just went with what they had. And since these were just sitting around at Florida, they were like, oh, well, let's go ahead and just bring those over here since we kind of need some methane tanks right now. That may probably be what the situation is with that.
Yeah, they never took the scaffolding down from the front of them.
Maybe a sign that they're probably not going to be lasting for too much longer.
We can hope.
Let's see. What else do we got? So over here, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just I don't remember when they haven't done too much with this test stand, actually. I think the previous flyover, they finally filled in the concrete base.
Yeah, seems like the progress is fairly slow on this, but might just be because they're kind of able to take their time since they haven't really gotten that test article ready yet. Whatever is going to be going in here, maybe still a ways out.
Yeah, and the only main thing they did, the triangle wedges, you can sort of see it by the red safety tape for that's when the actuators that the pipes connect to the for the cap. I think that's the main addition that happened this week.
Oh, the cap connects all the way down here.
Yeah, there's large blue pipes that are under the tarp, just above the stand. Yeah,
These ones.
yeah, those are to pull the cap down.
So that's interesting. It seems like there's 3 actuators within here.
No, I don't think so. I think it's just a center. I don't know how the mounting bracket works because it looks like there's a hole on the end as well, so that they could put additional. So yeah, it could be. The stand is getting obnoxious.
Yeah, this almost looks like it's meant for the. I mean, without being able to see what this looks like up close, like it's meant to sit directly on the engine mounts, possibly.
Well, right below the wood planks are the arms where the clamps will be connected to.
Oh, right.
But
Yeah, that's a bit odd then.
yeah, they just keep adding to it. There's the other ring that they've been working on. It's to the right of this, and yeah, by the white pickup truck, right past 16-1 on the top of the frame. There's the to your left. right
This one?
there. Yeah, they've just been modifying it, and it's, again, we originally thought this was for the to hold the 10 hydraulic cylinders for puck chucking, but now it's grooves those two columns with the bags over them, and
Yeah, kind of confusing on that.
yeah, everything has at Massey's is getting like this right now.
I'm excited for that first booster test article. I'm assuming it'll probably be an aft section plus a common dome, and then the forward section on top, or potentially just an aft and a forward section. That wouldn't surprise me either. Yeah, I think we may see something like that be the first thing tested in here.
Definitely.
Yeah, and speaking of new boosters, we do have one other item that of interest this week, and I'm going to have to pull that up here on the side because I didn't really think about it until just now. But they did test over at Massey's a what we believe is a new landing tank for the booster. And let's see, I actually have this right here. I'll go ahead and pull it up. This is actually from NASA Spaceflight, so shout out to them. This is their McGregor camera, and this is at like 8,000% speed right here. Or sorry, 2400x, I believe. So it's actually, okay. I gotta wait for this view to change here. It's down here in the bottom left corner. So that is basically a really long, fairly long ring section. I don't know the diameter. I think it was 3 meters or something like that. We initially saw this at Starbase, and I believe I do have a video of that as well too. Let me see if I can find that. But we saw this at Starbase, and kind of were a bit confused on what it was. And I think, I don't know, maybe some people figured it out before this, but now we have some confirmation on what it is. But we believe this would be the landing tank for the version 2 booster. And here's the actual, okay, usually this pops up within the same window, but it did not this time. So I'm going to go ahead and put it up here. So this is that tank section that we saw. Fairly large. I don't know what the volume looks like in comparison to the normal landing tank, but it is very tall. I would have to guess it's probably at least twice as tall as the original landing tanks, and I'm not sure what the diameter comparison looks like, but it should certainly be able to hold more volume. I guess the big question with this is, how much of a design change this is going to be, because right now we haven't seen, or I mean, at least from this angle, can't really see whether or not there's something on top for the methane downcomer to pass through. And if there is, then that significantly reduces the volume of this landing tank by having that pipe go through the middle of it. So that'll be interesting to see what they end up doing with that. I'm kind of hoping they don't go the same route that they went with the ship and putting individual pipes going to each engine for the methane, like basically a sump on top of this that has pipes going down onto each of the, well, yeah, that wouldn't work because it wouldn't be able to reach the center engines. So with that said, I'm guessing it probably will go straight through the center of this, now that I think about it. Will be very interesting. It'll make the aft section quite a bit taller than what it is currently with that on top.
Yeah, so that thing's going to take a lot more volume.
Yeah, good thing they have the tall sections of the Star Factory in order to put that together inside of that building. Okay, so moving on, what else do we have?
That's pretty much it. Dave. Yeah, just 14.1. I thought they were done with the chopstick test.
Have they? I know this is from Monday, but have they moved this this testing cap off of it yet?
Yeah, that was removed this week.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so that's good news. And this is basically testing the catch points for the ship, basically. Actually, wait. This doesn't have the. Sorry, this was squeezing. This was squeezing the tank actually. So it had actuators right here, and then in the same location on the other side. And this is basically a landing rail adapter right here. And so they were using this to actually squeeze the tank. And I did mention that, I think, on the last time I was on the show, that we believe the ship will actually be at a bit reduced operating pressure when it comes in for landing. So normally it's somewhere between, like 5 and 6 bar?
Yes.
And so Elon has mentioned several times on tours with the Everyday Astronaut that they plan to basically depress the ship before reentry, which is probably something they've already been doing anyways. So with that reduced pressure, you kind of lose a little bit of the structural integrity. So they want to basically make sure that the force that the chopsticks are going to be clamping down on the ship, essentially, that's not going to actually crush the tank section. Cool. So let's see. Do we have any questions about Massey's before we move on?
Well, I want to thank Drew Nahr for gifting 5 memberships, as well as Yep Kuipers gifting 5 memberships, and then Daniel Hogman renewed his expired membership, so thank you very much for that support. I do not have any questions relevant to the discussion, but I do have the ever so inevitable Win Hop. Do you think Monday is still on the table for a launch, or will it get pushed by a couple of days?
I think we'll probably address that once we get to the production site area.
Sounds good. You got it. We can move on.
Cool. Awesome. Let's see. I don't know if we had anything that we wanted to cover at the port or the airport. I don't think there's anything in the storage yard that's new from last week. So I think we can probably skip this for now. Let's see. We do have the site in between Massey's and the production site, which is the new village. Do they have a name for this yet?
Something west, I thought.
Rio West.
Rio West. Yeah, there we go. So they've been doing some work right here with basically getting all of their living space constructed. So this is a nice full view of it right here. Basically got some apartments right here, and down here, I want to say these are probably condos, because they're rather large for like a single family home. So I believe these are probably condos.
Okay.
What was that?
Yeah, I think so, because it almost looks like they're elevator holes in the set. Those 2 squares was the one with the the green tendons.
So do you think it'll be like more than 2 or 3 floors?
No, actually, there's tendon going right through them, so they can't be penetrations. Or they
Okay.
could.
Yeah. I wasn't sure what these were. Are these post-tension?
Yes.
That seems excessive for a structure of this size.
That's one of the reasons I was suspecting they're probably multi units.
Okay. That makes sense. So, yeah, initially when I first saw this, I thought this was what do you call the radiative heating for the concrete? There's another name for it.
Oh, yeah. I also thought it was just radiant floor heating.
Yeah, but I don't see any loops being made here, so that kind of changed my mind about what that was. But wow, post-tension beams for this, because we haven't seen post-tension beams pretty much anywhere at Starbase, so that would be very interesting for a structure like this. But for those who don't know what a post-tension tendon is, so basically and I still have a hard time believing that's what this is because there's just so many of them. But essentially, after you pour the concrete, you pull on the tendons from the end, and that basically keeps them in tension. And so that it's basically kind of like rebar, but even more reinforcement essentially. Basically keeps it from collapsing. So yeah, that would be really excessive for a structure like this, but it's possible that that's what we're seeing here.
At the top of the forms, you can see some of the wires hanging out. Yeah, right there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I do see those actually. Huh.
but
Very interesting.
it seems excessive.
Yeah, like why not just use rebar and call it a day?
Yeah, it's not a huge span or anything.
Yeah, I mean, it would almost make sense if this was one large building going all the way across to put those tendons all the way across like this. But yeah, for these small structures, it's very interesting. But beyond that, we also have, like I said, those apartments over here, which are coming along pretty nicely. These are 2-floor apartments.
Yes, or yeah, there are two because there's a ground level. They're all elevated off the ground, is what I meant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they're finally starting on the, I want to call these tiny homes.
I have feelings these are just going to be garages underneath townhomes because you can, on the elevated portion, you can see the tops of piles.
Right. I'm just looking at these trucks. Like, I don't think you could fit the full truck in there.
Definitely not a truck, but
Like a smaller car, probably.
yeah, maybe a
Or
single
even just
car.
storage. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting the way they're all connected to each other, though. That's a bit odd.
Yeah.
What else do we have over here? So the one thing we haven't really seen them start yet, other than it looks like they have a bunch of piles in the ground here. Are these piles or just
They're piles. They've been drilling. They've had a couple rigs out.
like CFA piles or the ones that they just hammer into the ground? Oh wait, here's the drilling rig right here.
Yeah, they're micro piles, so they're fairly small.
Okay. And here's the concrete trucks as well too. Cool. All right, well that answers that question. Yeah, so this would be a larger apartment building, we're assuming, or the shopping center. And we did see some images of what they expect this to look like. I don't know if we have any on hand right now, but it actually does look pretty awesome. And sorry, I'm just looking here in the back channel because got some messages that I received over there, making sure they weren't relevant. Oh, yeah. So Dave Avery says that the tanks from KSC are actually headed to McGregor and not Starbase. That was what I initially thought. I thought they were going to like land in like Corpus Christi or something like that instead of coming all the way to Brownsville. But I did see somebody pull up the manifest for that barge, and it thought it was coming to Starbase. So yeah, McGregor actually makes a lot more sense. As far as we know, they're actually building out their testing facility at McGregor. And I do have one image of this. I saw a better one that was like a render. But yeah, this is basically a kind of basic construction drawing. This would probably be at the front of the construction document or something like that of what that structure is going to look like. And I guess we have some more images over here too. These look like they're from the village though, because that's the Star Factory in the background. So yeah. Awesome. Yeah, we'll get to the village as well too, because they've got a lot of housing expansion happening out there. In the meantime, anything else we wanted to mention about this area?
I think that pretty much covers it.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and move over to Massey's unless there was something at the port. I honestly, the port stuff is really cool. If you're into that kind of construction, I'm not going to really touch on it here. But like I said, if you are a member of the channel and want to go through these images, and have interest in large industrial projects like this, there's quite a lot of interesting things going on at this site. So I welcome you to go through those images yourself. And I don't know, potentially at the end of the show, if we happen to have time and somebody asks a question about this area, I will come back to it. Only other image that was worthy of showing here is that aircraft carrier that was moved down here to be scrapped 2 weeks ago. And you can see it sitting here waiting for demolition work to begin. Beyond that, the only other thing down in this area are the water tanks, which at this time were still at the port. And I believe all of these, at least all of the long ones. So there was it 4 long ones or 5?
4.
4. And then 4 shorter ones as well?
I remember 4. There's one of them they hadn't moved over here yet.
Okay, so all of these but one are still are gone?
Yes. Though, did they move one last night?
They did.
Then everything but the vertical tank, I think, has moved.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I didn't see anybody post about that one moving last night. Usually Vix has been really good about getting recordings of all of those, but I don't see any in here.
They could arrive at D2 around 1:40 or 1:50 a.m.
Okay. Yeah, so these are basically for that deluge system, and we'll see some more of those when we get to the launch site. Is this the 3rd methane tank, the vertical one?
Yeah, but we're not sure where it's going to go yet.
Okay. Yeah, I suppose that would be one way of increasing the capacity at Massey's without going with a horizontal tank, but obviously they're clearly planning on a horizontal tank.
Definitely.
And elsewhere down here, we do have the components of that air separation plant, which going to be a while, I think, until they get started. Whoa, are these? These look like the cladding for the tower. Hold on, let me see if I have another image of this. No, those are pipes. Yeah. Okay. Got pretty excited there for a second. Cool. Yeah, so going to be a while, I think, until we see this. Probably the whole Pad B will be operational before they start that air separation plant. And it's going to take a while because they're going to be constructing that in between launches. So still excited to see that happen once they actually make it around to getting to that construction work. So moving over to Sanchez, where some of our most exciting stuff for today is going to be the launch mount, of course. Lots of good progress on this. I do often see comments on this. I think I want to say it was Das from NSF mentioned that it's nearly completed, and that last 20% seems to take longer than the first 80. And I don't know. I think while it feels like it's taking a long time, there's still a lot more work left to go. It's certainly looking closer to being a completed structure, but I'm expecting this thing to be fully kitted out before it moves. So we do have the water manifold or the pipes coming off of the side of the pancake structure, and they did add some additional plates onto the other 4 sides as well too, which we had mentioned in a previous episode that would end up happening. We do have some cool ground images of this that should be helpful. These are actually from Joe Tegmeyer, and you can see that over the last week they have mounted a water manifold onto the side of this, and this is actually open on both ends, which in my opinion probably is an indication that it'll wrap around. However, on these sides you can see the pipes coming off of that plate, versus over here they're square and oval cutouts on this. So that is a bit interesting. This is actually kind of similar to the pancake for the Pad A deluge system. I'm actually going to find a render from Ryan really quick, which will be great for showing this. Let's see where it is. I think this might be, oh no, that's the old one. Well, this one might work. I'm not sure if this is the right one. Okay, so yeah, you can see that this had cutouts on the side of it, and then on the edges, some of the edges, they had caps. These are basically for drainage caps, but on the sides, these are the open sides right here is where those manifolds connected to. I'm still not finding the one I want to show. This might actually do it right here. So yeah, you can see those caps were on the edge right here, and there's end plates on the side. And so basically there was a little bit of a gap in between here where they could open up these caps and actually drain out the entire pancake structure. And so not really sure if we're seeing something similar here, but I've kind of been thinking that we may have another water manifold on the side, possibly. If not an actual water manifold, then something actually extending off of the side. So basically, kind of like trying to think of how to describe it. But in my opinion, I think it makes sense to extend the actual deluge plate off of just the main surface, like out on the side over here, kind of like a hat, if that makes sense. Do you have any thoughts on this, Alex?
I'm thinking on the same lines that it'll be like a slanted edge, sort of like an awning
Right.
extent. And yeah, Ryan did, and I couldn't find it myself. They had the square openings where they connected additional plates together. So that sort of also leads to there
Yeah.
being.
Do we have, let me see if I have some images of the other side so we can see what those look like. Because they're all different. Every side is different. It's very interesting. On this side right here, they're all of the, I think these are rectangular.
Yeah.
And they're all the same size versus on the other side, the holes get smaller towards the center. And let's see, this is another angle from the other side, which we can't really see that well. Don't know if I have one that will actually show it better. Kind of need a ground shot for this one.
It's very similar to the side you just.
Okay. Yeah, so definitely got something else going on with this plate. We haven't seen any other parts arrive for it yet. There's a ton of stuff scattered around here, but none of it really seems to be for this. So as far as right now, the only other change we've seen with this structure is they do have pipes going in through the side of it, which you can just barely see from this angle. Actually, I need a little bit of a more shallow angle, I think. Maybe we'll be able to see it from this one. Not quite. Let's try that one. Negative. Okay. I think this is probably what we want right here. Cool. Yeah, so you can actually see pipes coming in from the side right here. There's two over here and then one right there. And it's not really visible in this image, but there are some more coming out of the side right here. I don't know if we can see them in that ground shot. I think we can actually. Yeah, you can see them coming out from right here. And so as far as we know, Alex, did you say that these have actually been pushed deeper into the structure? They're no longer sticking out?
This side, they're definitely still sticking out from the last ground shots I've seen.
Okay.
And there's been now there's some smaller pipes and some of the more recent.
Okay. Yeah, so what I'm thinking with this is that you're probably going to have the fire suppression system or detonation suppression system, and also probably an actual fire suppression system as well too for the internal parts of the structure. So I imagine that there'll probably be a sprinkler system in the upper deck, which may extend up from the bottom into that as far as where the sprinklers come up from. But the fire or detonation suppression system. Honestly, I'm a little bit surprised if that's inside of the structure, because you would actually want to spray it towards the middle. So looking at it from up here, man, these pictures are so large, I get lost in them. I would almost expect them to be underneath the level where the hold down clamps are, so mounted to the bottom of that or something. But yeah, still interesting. Finally, the first plumbing we've seen go into the structure. I was kind of wondering what we would actually see. There should actually be hydraulics as well too, although I believe most of the hydraulic system should be self-contained within this. The first launch mount, I don't know if it has an actual hydraulic supply. I believe it just has accumulators and reservoirs inside of the actual launch mount, and it's not being supplied externally as far as I know.
It might be a high pressure nitrogen to keep it charged internal.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And for the by the deluge stuff, there's some round pipes have shown up when we get to the flame bucket.
Okay. Yeah, one more thing that I do want to point out over here, because this was a big thing that I've been on the lookout for. So as far as the possibilities of this being a permanent fixed structure, I would expect there to be lifting points on it for a crane to actually attach to it. And so it was always bothering me that these lift points, there's 8 of them in total, were still on here and they never cut them off. But as of right now, I don't know if this one will necessarily be accessible anymore. I guess you probably could fit lifting straps up through there. But this is the one sign, in my opinion, of this potentially not being an interchangeable structure. But do you think these are enough to lift this whole structure? Eight of these?
I don't know what the backing steel would be. It's in the corner, which they have reinforced, but I don't know if there's enough surface contact.
Yeah. I mean, it would be very interesting to lift this with just those small lifting points.
Especially compared to the size of the clamp hold down mounts. They're significantly more robust than these 8.
Right. Good point. I just saw somebody in the chat say it looks like it weighs a lot more than the rocket, and that is definitely a fact. We estimated this to be, oh man, I forgot those numbers. I want to say it was somewhere between 600 to 900 tons, possibly even up to 1,000. So it really kind of depends on what else they add on to this, but certainly a very, very heavy structure.
It's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense why they had to drill the CFA piles underneath the corners in order to support this, because I mean it's a lot of weight on the ground right there. Basically, almost 3 to 4 boosters. Yeah. Very, very heavy structure. Moving on, we have the flame bucket for the flame trench, obviously. And they've been making some good progress on this over the last few days, which I don't think is reflected here. They did add additional pipes onto the sides. And let me see if I can get a better overhead view of this. Actually, I think they are here. Yeah, they added the side pipes onto here, which are on the... so they've done it on one of them. They haven't done it on the other yet. I think they did three sides. And not this one?
Yeah. And in this photo, at least, it looks like they have one more row to add to everywhere. Because if you look at the upper section where the manifold is, you can see the round hole poking out for where the water supply would be. It's in this one, but it's in the shadows.
Maybe a side angle would be better?
Nah,
Oops.
It's okay. It just, there's enough pieces for there to be another row added. And
Right.
yeah,
There's
if you,
what, 6 of them?
I
Or
think
oh
there's
wow.
8. Yeah,
So
because
there's 2
there's
gaps here.
when we counted it, it looked like there's enough for the 4 in the middle and then 4 around the outside plus the third one to be filled in.
Have we seen the centerpiece? I haven't seen that in quite a while.
It disappeared.
Probably inside of this building, if I had to guess.
Or the tent right across from right there. Oops, down across from the OLM where they're doing all this
This
the
one?
plumbing. Yes.
Is that big enough?
It's split in half. So for each half would definitely fit in there.
I imagine they're probably joining it together before, like, if anything, that's probably what they're doing right now is joining it together
In which case it'd probably be inside the
inside of
building.
here. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
below the yellow crane or telehandler, there, those two, the two just full arcs are probably make a circle that would fit on the bottom of the OLM between the corner mounts. So
Oh,
it's probably for the detonation
fire
suppression.
suppression or detonation
Yeah,
suppression. So going around, um, basically
the
this
it's
area
a
underneath.
yeah, it almost would be if you drew a circle on that top deck. It's almost that wide.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a pretty, but that's the only place where it would seem to logically fit.
Don't they need what, 3 of them? I only see 2.
There's one in the tent or that shed just to the left. Uh, you can see that. Yeah, you can see it. The shadow of it, and it's yeah, right there.
Yeah.
And, and then, yeah, it says
Interesting. Yeah, that's one of those things that's going to disappear and we'll never see it again. Um, and we'll only be able to assume that it's being used there. And I think that once this is installed, like it's going to be really hard to see certain features of this because of how low it's going to sit on its mounting point. I think you'll be able to see this spraying with the little gap beneath the bottom of the deck and the top of the trench. You may actually be able to see that detonation suppression system when it's activated. But yeah, a lot of things are going to be a little bit more hidden on this launch mount.
I think it's going to be a bit higher than it's sitting here.
Yeah, I've been talking to a few people about that because you are a little bit limited to, well, assuming it's a interchangeable structure, you're limited to how high you can get the SPMTs up, essentially, right?
But there's ways. They're climbing jacks. People move items like this
Yeah,
all the time.
right.
It just will be a little unique to see the first time.
Yeah, I agree. What else do we have? So the cladding, they installed a little bit more cladding on Tower A this week. They delivered this cladding last week, and I initially thought they were going to get started right away on the Pad B tower. However, it looks like what they delivered was made for Pad A. But we have seen them. They do have mounting points for these on the Pad B tower, which they've been working on over the past few weeks. So I imagine before Flight 9, we'll probably see them start to install some of these because if they want to catch the ship with the second integration tower, they're probably going to want to protect the interior of it a little bit. So probably after this next flight, we'll see them start to bring some of this out to the launch site.
Definitely. Let's see. There's
Finally got some progress on this booster transport stand, the third one. They have reset up the scaffolding. This thing was kind of just left here for a while without any work being done on it, but it looks like they've returned to getting this ready. We believe. I don't think these are the
Those were
clamp
the ones.
mounts, the old
No,
ones,
those
right?
were. Yeah, they're keeping them for reasons.
Yeah, because the new ones are made out of stainless steel, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So we haven't seen those arrive yet, but imagine they will probably be showing up sometime soon, considering they appear to be preparing for those right now.
Yeah, it's finally. Hopefully they start a fourth one soon.
Yeah, agreed. Let's see, what else do we have going on at Sanchez? So they are making progress with the ship QD arm a little bit. They have kind of started with the building out the pipe sections for that. I believe they had started. I don't think much of this has changed since the last flyover. Maybe just one or two of them, but yeah, they are at least initiated this, but have not begun actually installing them yet, which is very interesting to me. I'm wondering if there's still some design work going on with it in order to allow it to be used for both the V2 and V3 ships instead of them having to, you know, completely remove it and change out the mounting points or something like that. So yeah, I'm wondering what's taking so long with this, because this frame has basically been sitting here completed for several weeks now.
Yeah, it's just gathering some patina like the one in Florida.
Yeah.
And there's been no signs of any for the claw section, the wrist and hand.
And I do see some some comments in the chat that I'll go ahead and address. So somebody's asking why do I want interchangeable launch mount? So for those of you who haven't seen it yet, I did release a 2-part episode. I'm still working on part 3 right now, where I will be mentioning most of that stuff. But just based on what I did cover in parts 1 and 2, there's just a ton of work that is required to get the launch mount ready in between each launch, and I do think that most of that work will probably be eliminated with just the simple fact of having a flame trench. But I also don't think it's. I don't believe that it's. I don't think there will ever be no damage. You know what I mean? Like over time, there will be damage to the structure. No matter how much water you're putting down there, you will slowly begin to eat away at those steel surfaces. So eventually, and especially with this the flame bucket over here, I think eventually they'll probably end up, let's say it's 50 to 100 launches down the road, end up having to do some sort of work on this, whether that's involves completely changing it out. It will obviously be yet to be seen. But in my opinion, which has not changed, I do think that is the best way forward. And again, I do keep an open mind with these things. And at this point, the only sign of it being anything other than what I think it is those lifting points on the side of the structure. In my opinion, everything else points towards it being interchangeable. And that's something else we'll see when we get to the launch site. There was another thing that I said would be required in order for it to be interchangeable, and we're finally starting to see some progress on that. So we'll touch on that a little bit more later in the episode. And I will say, I am pretty stuck on things sometimes. However, I always look for signs that I may be wrong. So, whenever those signs do present themselves, I will probably be the first person to notice it and call it out and admit to, it being something different than what I think it is. But that has not happened yet. So, and sorry, Alex, what were you about to say?
Oh, the way they're assembling parts of the deflector face looks like it's being designed so that it can be easily switched out, and with the large mount on top of it would definitely pose logistic issues.
Yeah, exactly. And what are you noticing that would allow it to be swapped
For
out?
the ridge, they have flanges on the pipe stub outs.
Mm-hmm.
So
They can connect
Why
and
would-
disconnect it instead of weld it.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And this should be a relatively, it's a wear surface. There's no way I mean, if it lasts 15 cycles, but it's expected to be. It's not that expensive to build.
Yeah. And there's levels to this, you know what I mean? Like you have a similar flame bucket at well, I guess it's not necessarily there anymore, or at least not the same one, at the McGregor test facility. And they usually only test a single Raptor engine. I think they test the Falcon 9 core stages on top of that as well too. We don't know any history as far as maintenance required on that, but I do believe it's the same one. However, that is mostly single engine tests and 9-engine Falcon 9 tests. So I do think over time, with how much energy is being put out by this booster, that this will be worn down. So I just the laws of material science, in my opinion, and physics just says that this is probably not going to be a structure that's impervious to damage. So
It's like your brake pads. It's designed to wear
exactly.
out.
Exactly. See, it was a question, special metal. Yeah, vibranium would probably solve that problem, but we don't have that yet. So until they create something like that, I think we're kind of stuck with what the Earth is able to provide. Cool, moving on. Anything else at Sanchez that I've missed?
The remains of ship
Yeah.
32's carcass.
Yeah, ship 32, which is still being scrapped right now. This is actually the nose cone from ship 27?
20, yeah.
Yeah. So the nose cone for this one is actually, for 32, is in the high bay still, but they have stripped the tiles off of most of it. As you can see here, this is the forward dome right here. And this is one of the tank sections, so all the tiles stripped off the side, and they're still scrapping it. Go ahead.
Is that the payload section, I think?
It kind of looks like it with all of the bracing on the inside.
Yeah, because you can see the door just peeking out right next to the dome.
Yeah, and sorry, I may be wrong on this. I think this is actually 26. 27, they only kept a very tiny part of the nose cone, and it may still be over there. It was over in this area for quite a while, but I don't see it anymore. Yeah. Lots of things over here that I'm surprised haven't been scrapped yet, like all of these previous test articles that were over here, kind of just been sitting around for a while, and they haven't scrapped them yet. But always busy over here in the scrapyard, that's for sure.
Any amount of downtime, they get to something.
Yeah, agreed. Let's see. I think that may be everything for Sanchez. I'm sure we're going to have some questions. So, Astro Joe.
Well, I do want to thank Callistia Lee for gifting 5 memberships, but there was a lot of chatter in chat and questions that you have already addressed, and I have nothing further to address.
Awesome. Great. Well, in that case, we will go ahead and move over to the production site. Yeah, I do try and anticipate the questions that are going to be asked both in this live stream and in my own episodes. So, if I'm rambling on, that is usually why, because I'm assuming there's going to be questions about whatever it is I'm talking about. So I do try and address those ahead of time.
And you do it well.
Yeah, sometimes. Cool. So let's see. What's new at the production site? Not a ton for us to actually see here. Oh, sorry. Let me go back to that backside. They're still working on deleting the Mars. I want to call it a painting, but it's not a painting. The mural on the side of the parking garage. So sad day, but did not last anywhere near as long as a lot of us were hoping it would. But now it's a nice little white wall on the side of this thing. And it seems like they may finally be close to opening up the top of this parking garage. Finally see some cars parked up there, but nowhere near as many as I'm sure are on the other levels. One thing that I am looking forward to, and I say this all the time, but finally have some news on it. I'm actually not sure if I'm allowed to mention it, but I'm going to anyways. From what I've been told, we will probably see High Bay and potentially starting with Star Factory, the demolition of this starting within the next 2 weeks is what I've been told. So that is pretty awesome. I've been looking for signs that they've been starting to get rid of some of the equipment out here before they get to that work. But as of right now, I do not see any. So take all of that with a grain of salt, but that is what we are currently expecting, that it's less than 2 weeks away. Let's see here. What else? I know in one of these images there was a ton of water trucks going this way. Do you have any thoughts on this? Yeah.
Unless there's a fire cistern that they buried somewhere to fill, I'm at a loss.
Yeah, because I thought their water supply for these buildings, and this may just be fire suppression for the whole site. I know that they have water storage here, but I guess that's not for just regular usage. It's probably specifically for fire suppression. Yeah, I wish we could had multiple images to see where they were going with this. Kind of all just bunched up in this area. And there's this little Movac trailer down here.
Thing. Yeah, it's a water storage of some sort.
Yeah, and this is their HVAC system right here, right? So,
yeah.
I mean, but that would be a closed loop system, right? So it's not like you would need to constantly replenish the water.
No, those cooling towers don't look like the ones you evaporate out all the water.
Okay.
They look like your normal direct expansion.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's just a random mystery for now. We do have this little crane attachment right here, which I think may have been used by... Did they use Grover when they installed... No, this isn't for Grover, because Grover has a black extension. But I believe they used an extension when they were installing the dummy payload into ship 33.
That's the last one we saw load the payload. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this may be staged here for that same operation, unless the actual PEZ loader, which we saw several weeks ago being worked on inside of the high bay, which is now inside of the Star Factory, unless that is complete, then I think that we may end up seeing them lift those in there by crane again. I do wonder if those... I mean, I can't see a reason why they wouldn't be able to be loaded with that if it is completed. I mean, I'm sure they're identical form factor to the actual real Starlinks as far as, anything that rides on rails goes. But yeah, that's one thing to be on the lookout for. On that note, obviously with Booster 15 being at the launch site right now, we are still waiting on the ship to arrive. And as of last night, there is a transport stand sitting outside of Mega Bay 2. And we were hoping that we were going to see the ship placed on top of that. So there, before it comes to the launch site, there is one more operation, which will be that payload install. They don't do it on the actual workstations. So they put it on top of the transport stand. At least that's what they did last time. They put it on top of the transport stand, bring a crane in through the front of the building, and then lift those dummy satellites into there. So that is one thing that we're still waiting to see happen. And there's a chance it may have been done already, but I do believe that we probably would have seen that already, or at least seen the crane arrive. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say that they probably have not done that yet. And with that said, it is Saturday, so they don't have much time left. So we have seen a placard on the front of the building, which has given us the indication that they have already installed the FTS on ship 34, but the payload has still not been installed as far as we know. It is very interesting how much of a delay we've seen, because the initial launch date was supposed to be yesterday, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so now it's been pushed to Monday. And I'm wondering if it won't push even further. I'm hoping it doesn't. But based on what we're seeing with the ship, I'm surprised it's not at the launch site already. We have heard that there may have been some issues with the TPS tiles, and that kind of led to a little bit of a delay with the ship. But again, no real official word on that. But that's just what we've heard.
I mean, the last couple of days, whenever the door was open, they're definitely still applying tile.
Oh, really? It was visible?
Yeah, there's one of the seams that looked like they were working on.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I'm a bit surprised by that, because weren't they? I thought they were all installed when it did the static fire test. Did they remove some of them?
That's what it
Wait,
looked
they were.
like.
I know there was some missing from the side of it, right? Like around the. And they didn't have the. Did they have the lifting point installed on it already at that point? I can't remember what it looked like when it rolled out.
I thought it had where it was going to be attached to, but not the actual nub. Yeah, I forgot.
Yeah,
It's
so
been a
just some
while.
final outfitting that they're doing on that, and I guess with those TPS tiles missing, I wonder if those were specialty tiles at that seam. Are those the small ones on the
I
seam?
believe they were. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Elon did mention in his, I think this was yesterday, in his interview with Joe Rogan, talked a lot about TPS tiles. I'm not going to get into it too deep right now. If you guys want to hear more about that, definitely welcome to check that out. But he did mention about just the whole vertical integration process with the tile production, and having to basically do everything from source all of the materials themselves to obviously the actual manufacturing as well. Basically all in house. So quite the operation. It's almost comparable to Raptor production, as far not in difficulty, but in scale of that operation. So yeah, pretty impressive that they're able to do all of this in house. Anything else at the production site? I'll move over to the Star Factory, which I don't even know if there's really anything for us to see at the Star Factory this week.
Not too
So
much has changed.
Yeah, the front side of the building, they're busy doing some landscaping. That's nice. They are. I can't remember if they actually put grass down here, or if this is just that. What do you call it?
Hydroseed?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think the green one's hydroseed, and this yellow one from some angles looks like it was sod. Just from
Okay.
their
It's just
strips
dead at the
dying.
moment.
Yes.
Yeah, so maybe we'll start to see that come back here in the next few weeks or months, now that we're starting to move into the warmer parts of the year. But yeah, the front of this building is looking pretty great. As we've said on previous episodes, they have started moving in. Folks have started moving into the building. I've actually seen a lot of tweets from SpaceX employees lately that it seems like something's changed, and they're now a lot more active on social media than they have been in the past. Or maybe I'm just noticing them all of a sudden. But yeah, a lot of them have stated that they're working from their offices in there now. So that means a lot of the stuff that was previously in the Stargate building has been moved over. Obviously, that probably has not been completed yet. And I know that they're still doing some construction work on the inside of this building, but it seems like enough of it is open for people to start moving into that office. Moving on to the village, I guess. So they've been working on this road down here. I'm going to hide this really quick. This road is now open, looking pretty great, and I can't really scroll further down on this image. But one other thing that they were doing in this neighborhood, which we haven't been able to actually really see, but what I've been told is that they were installing a wastewater system for this whole neighborhood because they don't really have a wastewater treatment facility here. So they're installing one for this entire neighborhood, and I believe that was part of the reason why they're digging up the road right here. So they're still working on this one, but it looks like at least this little section right here they've completed. I'm not sure if I'm assuming would probably have to go all the way down this street eventually, but obviously you probably won't want to do that until you finish this first. So doing it in small sections so that people still have access to their homes and whatnot. Speaking of homes, it looks like they're going to be adding potentially. I thought they were done with these Airstream trailers, but this looks like another extension of the Airstream park.
Yeah, the spacing looks like the diagonal one just on the other side of the finished street.
Yeah, and down further, they have also started constructing some more multifamily homes. Let me find a better angle of that. Yeah, these are interesting. I'm surprised they're not turned the other direction, so you could have a patio or a deck facing the launch site. That's kind of what this looks like to me, balconies up here, or decks, whatever you want to call them. And I think they're probably going to be duplicating that right here, but pretty much maxing out their room for housing here. They've maxed out this lot right here, which is pretty crazy. This one as well. And they're starting to fill in the remaining gaps of where there are not houses in the neighborhood. So you see 1, 2, I think there was like 4 of them in total that were under construction right now. Maybe there was only 2.
There's one by the trees, right?
Oh, and one
Yeah.
right here. Oh, is that
I
the one you're
thought there were
talking about?
more. No, I thought there were more than thought I saw 4 of them, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, me too. Maybe this is the 4th I was thinking.
Could be.
Yeah. Other than that, not a ton to really cover in the village. The pool house is getting closer to being done. And still waiting on that rec center, which they haven't started yet. Other than that, I think that just about covers the build site and village area. Let me go ahead and see if we have any questions or donations that we should cover.
Well, I want to thank Miss Jax for gifting a membership, and not really a question, but some love for the channel from Jean-Francois Harder. Happy birthday, RGV. Love you at the start, in the future. Really, thank you for your job. Outdoorsman Show and several others in back channels wanted me to announce that the Starlink simulator satellites, dumblinks, if you will, are at Mega Bay 2. And then Randall Williams is asking, is there any new info or drawings of the area for mission control?
Have they even mentioned anything about moving mission control? I haven't heard anything about that.
No, they're doing the Astra expansion at the school. But other than that, I haven't heard of anything.
Yeah, they're building was it $20 million school?
Yes.
That is an expensive school.
I think it goes all the way to high school to 12th
Okay.
grade.
Yeah, that is a very large school. $20 million. I don't know if I've ever seen a $20 million school before.
In LA, we have over $1 billion, but a lot of palms were probably greased.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Well, moving on to the launch site, I guess, if we don't have anything else, Astro Joe.
You may proceed.
Alrighty then. Well, we are now at Pad B, which has been getting a lot of love over the last few weeks. Tons to cover here. So they've finished that blinding layer, where the thin layer of concrete that goes basically on top of the dirt. And they've started to lay out rebar at the bottom of the trench. I'm not sure if they've actually started pouring this yet. I'm pretty sure they haven't because I haven't seen a convoy of cement trucks yet. But this is some pretty thick rebar. It's difficult to say how deep it is. Let's see if there's an angle that shows some humans next to it. Not really.
On the right side, on the ramp, by the stairs, those rebar U-shaped looking things,
Hmm.
those are to support the upper layer from the lower one. So I don't know, what would you think those are? 2 meters, maybe?
Yeah, about that. I see somebody standing up right here, but unless he was laying on the ground. Yeah, I would. Yeah, so about 6 feet deep.
Yeah. Well, those are in the middle, and there's probably a couple of layers crisscrossed. But so you have 3 or 4 inches off the ground, then a couple layers, those, and a few layers on top. So
Yeah, this is pretty thick.
and there's a ladder right in the shadows, but it's at a very shallow angle. Right.
This one.
Yeah. So it doesn't help too much. Darn it.
Yeah, this is pretty impressive, though. I mean, what I'm not seeing yet, which kind of is a sign of how far they have left to go with that rebar work. I don't see any embeds yet, or rebar sticking up out of this on the sides. So I imagine that there will either be embed plates or more likely just rebar sticking straight up out of the sides right here. You can almost see where the wall is going to go. You can see the let me zoom in a little bit further. You can kind of see how the density of rebar is tails off right here. So I believe this is the wall right here. So we'll probably, I don't know if there's rebar, if there's rebar sticking up right here or not. It's tough to see.
I haven't spotted any, and I'm still hoping for some large embeds, and they, instead of pouring the walls, they build it like the base of the integration tower.
Yeah, like a basically steels with concrete in the middle.
Exactly.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Because parts of the test stands, the new vertical ones at McGregor, have that.
I need to really see some of those new images. I haven't really seen any updated McGregor shots lately.
No, there hasn't been for a while.
Yeah, and so moving on over down here, we have the large gantry structure, which at this time was still being assembled. Right now, they have completed at least the main framework. I do have some images, I believe, that show it. Was that from Starship Gazer or possibly Joe? Yeah, we can see it right here. This was before they still had a few more beams to put up here, but rather large gantry structure. And I would say this is probably about 15 meters off the ground?
A little bit less. It's right about 42, 43 feet tall. So 14?
Okay.
Yeah.
That is basically 15. Come on.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I would exactly.
Like those people who like correct my English and the I had somebody in my latest video talk about when I mentioned the a comms tower on top of Pad A. They were like, "Oh, well, that's actually a weather station." I'm like, "Yeah, but it communicates information, and therefore it's comms."
Yeah, there are antennas up there. Leave you alone.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, this is a rather large gantry structure. We believe that the booster QD will be included in here, and that's pretty easy to tell, given that you have all of this this cryo tubing going through the trench and that goes underneath this. So it'll more than likely come up, and all of that QD assembly will be inside of here. So not only will you have all the cryo tubing, you'll have all the electrical conduit, possibly the water supply for the launch deck. I'm assuming it's going to have to come in through this direction. I'm actually... Sorry, go ahead.
Or through the middle in between the flame deflector in the center of the V.
Oh, yeah, that would make sense, actually. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, I mean, but with what we're not sure of yet is what that QD is going to look like. So, given how large this is, you could potentially just have it an actual arm that comes off of this, which I don't know. I kind of like that idea of something that actually retracts out of the way. But in general, this is just a lot more protection than what you would have on the other QD. Not only is it out of the way, there's a lot of disagreement on whether or not they'll still be doing the I want to call it tower avoidance maneuver. Yeah, I thought you didn't like to call it that.
But when in Rome.
Yeah. So it'll be out of the way of the tower avoidance maneuver, which is a big thing. And in general, you can install a pretty massive amount of shielding onto this. It's given that the whole structure doesn't have to move. Well, I guess it's kind of the same for the booster QD. But the booster QD is a little bit limited on how much shielding you can put on it because the door still has to be able to open. So, yeah, I think that the shielding on this will be, or can be, a lot more significant than what is currently on the Pad A's launch mount or the booster QD. So, given what I was saying earlier in the episode, as far as interchangeable launch mount structure goes, this was one of those things that I feel like is required in order for you to have an interchangeable launch mount. So if we just go back and look at Massey's again, and again, this is something I said way back in September, we would probably see a gantry structure like this that allows the stand to basically park next to it and have the QD extend out to attach to the vehicle. So lo and behold, that is what it appears we are currently in the process of seeing here. So the actual top of the launch mount, we're a little bit unsure about how high it will sit up on the structure. If it'll reach the top of this, I have a feeling it'll be below the top because, you need several meters of clearance. I think it's like 2 meters above the deck is where the booster QD is. So yeah, I believe this will be higher than the deck of the actual launch mount. But very, very interesting structure that they got going on here. I see questions flying in through the chat. Let's go ahead and address some of those really quick before we continue on.
Sure, yeah, we got Six String Simpleton. Are they leaving the pilings in place after the pour?
The sheet piles, yes, they're going to be just cut down below grade level and let to rust.
All right, works for me. Kal-El, question. Hey, Zach, are they going to re-engineer where they're putting the quick disconnect on the booster?
Yeah, so that was one of the things that we mentioned earlier in the episode, that we believe they're in the process of doing. So we think that, and sorry, let me get a better angle of it, that the reason they are building another booster cryo stand is because the current one will not work with the new position of the booster QD on version 2 of the boosters. So we believe that this is having to be remade in order to work with the rotated booster. So the engine positions won't work. The center engine position specifically won't work if you rotate the booster on that stand. So yeah, we believe this is a sign of that booster QD moving to a different area on the booster. And beyond that, I suppose it's not impossible. Let me go ahead and get back to that. It's not, I won't say it's impossible for them to do something that they did with the original launch mount, which is have the pipes come up, wrap around to the front of the launch mount. I just personally don't think that's going to happen.
I fully expect everything to be in case.
Right here.
Yeah. And there's 2 convenient bays in that structure for the transports to drive into part of them into.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the middle gaps, you can sort of
I
you
don't
can
know if
see
we
it in
have
this
angle.
from the overhead. You can kind of see if you zoom in.
This one?
That one's perfect. And on the right, by the last day frame, that bay is the wide enough. I
For the
think,
SPMTs to pull through if they needed to.
yeah, because the one to the right of it is where the support legs are going to be. So
Right.
you have a dead shot, and underneath that beam, there's a substantial number of piles across that edge, which wouldn't really. This structure doesn't really warrant that kind of foundation work.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, I didn't notice that before, but that makes sense. I figured maybe that the SPMTs wouldn't need to pull all the way through that far because they. Well, let's look at the Massey's one more time really quick. Yeah, so with the Massey's, they basically pull, I believe, up to this edge right here. So that is actually below the gantry structure. So yeah, I guess it does make sense that they would need to pull in a little bit further with that. Very interesting. That's a good observation for sure. Yet another sign. I think it's so funny that there's just a lot of disagreement on this. And again, it could very well turn out to be something different. But yeah, in my opinion, all the signs are pointing in that direction. And I do see a lot of people mentioning that S-34 is airborne. So that's a good sign. That means they're probably going to be putting it onto that transport stand and then loading those dummy satellites. I guess it's already airborne. Yeah. Cool. Unfortunately, I can't really pull up the streams here, but actually, no, yeah, I could do that. I'm not using OBS right now, so I'm not even going to bother trying to do that right now. Yeah, so awesome seeing this gantry structure being completed right now. And that allows them to start to finish up that plumbing work that they're doing with all these pipes down here. And that's just one less thing that they need to do, and they can focus on the trench after that. So tons of work on the trench, and obviously the remaining propellant distribution system. I guess we'll go ahead and touch on that right now. Actually, we'll probably start with the tower first. So with the tower this week, I believe on the last episode, they only had one of the hydraulic actuators installed, or at least the last time I was on here, they only had one installed, but they do now have both. The cables are fully reeved, and they have begun testing the chopsticks. So we've seen them move in and out. We've also seen them move up a little bit on the tower. There still is a bunch of scaffolding up here, so they're not able to lift it all the way up to the top. I'm not sure what they're doing. I talked about it before the show. I do think they may potentially have been adding in the rails that are in between each section, but I haven't seen ground images in quite a while of this, so I'm not sure if they were already present or not. But just making sense out of the fact that they have all of this scaffolding up here.
That's around the same level on Pad A's that they added the additional gussets to.
Right.
Which
up here.
Yeah, for the whole catch hardware. But
Right.
I would have expected that to have been done before stacking.
Right. Well, some of that stuff they didn't do. Like this tower was already stacked when they started doing that to the first tower, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So yeah, exciting times. They're definitely preparing to use this on Flight 9 more than likely. I mean, lots of signs of that, but I guess one of the biggest is just the fact that they're putting so much energy into getting these chopsticks up and running, and they have not done anything at all with the QD yet. So it seems like they're trying to get this operational as quickly as possible so that they can use it to catch the ship. That is certainly going to make the first catch attempt with the ship even more interesting, that they're doing it with the shorter chopsticks for the first time. So yeah, that's going to be pretty awesome. And they don't need the trench to be completed in order to do that. I imagine they maybe would want some sort of water system going, but given how high up on the tower they're catching it, maybe that won't be necessary. Although you can see when they catch the booster, even with those 3 engines, that the plume does reach the ground and actually completely disrupt the water deluge system. So may still be a good idea to have something on the ground, some sort of just water spraying, whether it's, it probably doesn't even need to be that much, certainly not the amount that the deluge system is putting out. Which actually, in all reality, I feel like is completely unnecessary for catching the booster. But yeah, that is going to be exciting. All they will need to do is flatten this out enough so that they're able to lower the ship on top of the transport stand after that catch, which, they have at least a month to do that. So I don't really see any issues with being ready in time for that. But yeah, going to be interesting. I think the scary thing about that is, if they do fail to catch the ship, it'll basically fall right here and, could damage some of their new hardware. Certainly would probably cause some damage to this gantry over here and stuff inside of the tower, but they will be placing cladding over that. You can actually see the mounting points all on the side of here for the cladding. I think it goes, it ends right here, I believe. Oh no, it goes all the way up to the top. So yeah, and that was the case for the first tower as well too. But they actually had to shave them off and put new ones on to work with their cladding. But I believe these are the correct ones for the cladding that they're going to be using. So yeah, we will see a significant amount of cladding on this tower eventually, all the way up to the top, which will be exciting. Yeah, a lot of people seem to not like that idea for some reason, but like this was in the renders since day one, so we should definitely expect there to be some cladding on this tower.
The pile cap is probably a lot thicker and stronger than the old landing pad, so they might just consider it'll hold up fine to the landing burn.
Yeah. I do see some folks in the chat asking why they would risk Tower B for the ship catch. So Ryan Hands of Space did a really nice thread about why it's necessary, but I guess in summary, for one, the ship is probably only going to do 1 orbit before that catch attempt, because if not, then it has to do like 12 orbits. So that's basically your 2 options, either 1 or like 12. I think it's like 12 or 15 or something like that in order to get back onto the same plane in order to land back at Starbase. So with that said, that's how long is that trip? Like just under an hour?
Yeah, even 1 orbit will be a little sketchy.
Yeah, but with that said, the booster will still be hanging from the chopsticks at that point. I do expect that process of setting it back on the launch mount will speed up, but it'll still be supported by the chopsticks for sure by the time the ship comes back, if it's less than an hour. So With that said, you only really have one option, which is to use the second tower. Obviously, in the future, that will not be necessary because your booster will be back on the pad long before the ship comes back down. At minimum, you're going to be deploying Starlinks, which will probably require several orbits in order to get them into the right orbital plane. So yeah, the ships will be more capable of staying in orbit longer as well too. I don't know how long a ship can even stay in orbit currently without having some sort of solar panels on the side of it. You're basically limited to whatever the capacity of those batteries is. So that's a big limitation for how long the ship can stay in orbit, essentially.
Yeah, and the other thing, I would think catching the ship's slightly higher risk, and this tower isn't done, so if it gets damaged, it'll just add to the construction time. It won't slow down the testing campaign.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it would slow them down with the V2 boosters, but it won't slow down their launches in general, though, because ideally 14, 15, 16, and 17 should be capable of reflying. So you can extend their expected life, by several more launches if needed in order to make repairs on this tower. But it would be a setback for booster 18. All right, continuing on. They are making some great progress with the commodities trench. Let's see if I can get a better angle of that. That's not what I want. So we can see that they've got the steel covers over a lot of that trench. Basically, they've started off with every location where they were going to be bringing in these water tanks. So you can see that they have 2 of those water tanks here. I think there was one on the side down here at the bottom of the image.
Yeah, there was.
It's just not visible right now. So all 4 of these long tanks have been installed already, and then all but so there's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, there's 5.
5 shorter ones.
Yeah, and we've seen supports for 5.
Okay.
So,
yeah, I'm thinking that the 4 large ones will be for the main, for the flame bucket, and then these 5 will be split between the deck and the centerpiece that goes between the 2 flame buckets. More than likely, what do you think?
yeah, and I think they're going to use the smaller tanks for the gas generation, just the proximity to the 2 or 4 liquid nitrogen tanks. And McGregor on the new stand sets, they're using a smaller tank for the gas generation and a large tank for the they're using both streams of water, but they've separated.
Yeah. That is an interesting part of this, actually, that they don't have any of those water pipes in place yet. At least with the Pad A deluge system, they installed most of that pipe work before they ever brought in the water tanks. That way they didn't have to move the pipes out. I think they ended up having to do that anyways, cutting those pipes out and I can't remember exactly. Yeah, I can't remember exactly what happened with that. I think the alignment was off or something like that. But I guess it's not too big of a deal to slide those pipes underneath. I think that's going to be interesting to see where they end up, if they end up being above ground or below ground. Right now, to me, it looks like they'll be surface mounted.
Yeah, if there's by the frame, by the telehandler or the excavator by those vaults, there's a couple of piles sticking out, which they might be using. There might be some more in the ground here and that's kind of in line where I'd expect the main pipes to be.
Yeah. Really quick, somebody did mention something in the chat, which I honestly haven't mentioned it all in the episode. If you guys have not done so already, we'd appreciate if you would hit that like button. It is the 200th flyover if you missed the start of the show. So awesome milestone for the RGV channel, hitting 200 flyovers. I'm not sure what episode this is, episode 148. So yeah, if you guys appreciate that, we definitely appreciate you as well if you would be able to just hit that like button for us. Also, if you have somebody else who may enjoy the show that you don't think watches it currently, feel free to share this with them. We appreciate that. And also, I guess, sorry to take your job, Astro Joe, but we'll also mention that $10 donation from Callistia Lee. Really appreciate the support. I think a lot of people kind of think it's easy to get up and do all these flyovers, but it is rather expensive. So, even with the Patreons, all the Patreon members and members of the channel, your donations go a long way towards helping us be able to do this every week. So we appreciate everybody who donates during the show.
Not a problem, Zach. You go ahead and take over my job anytime you want, buddy.
So continuing on, they are kind of stalled, I think, with the cryotubing a little bit. I think they're just finishing up this trench first. So they've got this expansion loop right here formed out, and all the concrete looks like they've poured the concrete for all of it. I think they must have just done this at the time.
So it looks like.
Yeah, so then they still need to extend this. I'm going to get a different angle. Perfect. Yeah, so this needs to extend over to the trench still. And then I believe it will also come to the tower from somewhere, probably somewhere in here.
Yeah, there's two for the tower.
There's 2 outlets. One of them is for conduit, right?
Yeah. It looks like the one facing directly to the tower is for the the propellant lines.
Okay.
Because those, when they put the culvert in the base of the tower, that one is going to head directly into the main part of the base.
Right.
And the other one comes to the awning area.
Yeah, this is really awesome. I like the way that they did this in comparison with Pad A, where they basically just put preformed concrete culverts in the ground. I was actually wondering, do you have any thoughts about why they went this route this time?
I think they realized with the other one, any amount of maintenance they'd have to do or upgrades over the years would be painful.
Impossible. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the lids they're attaching look like they can be removed fairly easily.
Yeah, definitely a good point. I'm wondering if we'll see them when they do the air separation plant. I don't know if there's enough room inside of here for them to add more pipes for that. I doubt it. Especially in this area, I don't think there's enough room for those to fit.
I'm assuming a lot of this is just the overhead angles. There was more space than it looks.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I imagine they probably don't need such large pipes because they're not going to be, trying to fill up the entire tank farm in 45 minutes. So they'll probably be significantly smaller than, yeah, exactly. Yeah, on that note, I guess we can continue over to the tank farm area. And, actually, there is a bit more going on over here with the, is this power distribution building or is this comms?
It's power. I
Yeah.
believe it's power.
Yeah, so they're getting this ready. It's basically an elevated structure, and we were talking about this before the show. More than likely, elevating it so they can put all of the conduit underneath and have it come up through the floor. You do have a bunch of boxes right here where all of that conduit's going to come up from, and obviously there's more conduit going in down here. It's all over the place coming out here. I thought they already had it here, but it seems like they're adding even more maybe than what was already present. I have to go back through previous images to double check that.
There's a lower level worth of conduits
Below this?
Yeah.
Yeah. So quite a lot of power and comms going to the tower and launch mount. Um, and it seems like they are actually going to be keeping this building, right?
It looks like they would have demoed it already because they have such a small work site for the other building.
Yeah. So what, comms in this building, power in here?
Yes,
Okay. And is this only to feed the tower? Because I'm guessing they have this one down here, which should feed the whole tank farm. Power
that's what it.
distribution for the tank farm.
Yeah, they split it into two, unlike Pad A.
Yeah. Pretty, I mean, this thing needs its own power distribution. So that makes a lot of sense. And we're going to go ahead and I guess move over to that tank farm stuff right now because quite a lot going over there. So over the last few weeks, we've seen these two heat exchangers that were here. That's been here. They've been here for quite a while. I think since maybe Flight 6, possibly. But now, actually, Flight 5, I believe. But now they have additional heat exchangers. So they have one that's identical to these two, and then we have the typical kettle boilers that we saw over on Pad A. These ones down here. So right now we have two different groups of each type of heat exchanger. So these heat exchangers down here, Alex believes you're believing these are for methane, correct?
Yes,
And
and
then you
there's
have these down here for liquid oxygen.
and there's the embeds showed up a few days ago, so there's probably going to be two more of those
Over here.
showing up. Now with the lock side where there's only two. There's probably going to
Oh,
be
okay.
the full four, and whether or not they extend it towards these vaporizers because they're working on that concrete.
Oh, right in here.
Yeah, they could probably fit another one.
Yeah, this is very, very compact and complicated. What's going on here? You know, at one point I was going to try and get Ryan to do an animation of this entire tank farm, but the chances of that are slim to none at this point. I wouldn't even want to put that on him to try and simulate the operation of this tank farm. So we'll eventually have to find another way of describing how all of this works. But very interesting what they have going on here. So the pumps are over here, which we've discussed in previous shows. So they have the casings for the pumps that are basically dropped through these raised frames, those skids basically. And so there's right now currently room for 4 pumps. And over here, we're believing there's probably going to be an additional 5. That's about how many would fit in this space. So quite a big change from what they've done over at the original tank farm area, where all of this stuff was the pumps at least were underground. I don't know if they're. I wonder. Can you think of any benefit of having them raised up like this, other than it just being simpler overall?
You can insulate the bases a bit better and perhaps vibration isolation.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, this is quite extensive. I mean, and right now with having two different groups of heat exchangers, your thoughts are that this will be one continuous circuit, or these one for the ship, one for the booster.
One circuit for the ship, one for the booster. And I have a crazy theory that I'm not going to share to the greater world quite yet.
That is fine by me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
this is. Go ahead.
they're adding basket strainers for each pump. They've there's 2 of them they've installed so far. So everything about this they're trying to. They thought of all their pain points from the last one.
Yeah. Are there There's only strainers in front. There's none after, right?
Probably there will be for the detanking, but none of the detanking plumbing has been installed quite yet.
These aren't strainers right here? Those are just valves? No, that's not a valve,
Yeah,
'cause those are valve.
it's a check valve, so
Okay.
when they those are new too. They didn't have them previously, as well as the universal bellow instead of the piece of flex line for vibration isolation from the pumps.
Yeah. And I'm seeing now that there's going to be 2 rows of, so just like below, you have one pipe manifold right here, and then another one going that will go next to it.
Yeah, one of them for the ship and one of them
Other 5.
exactly.
Yeah. This is very, this is a lot. So let's just take a look at the lock side over here. You can see they have 5. Wait.
That's
Yeah, they have.
method.
Yeah, I was like, where am I at? They have five LOX pumps, and over here they're going to have 9. So that will bring the propellant loading time down quite significantly. I don't know. Do you want to do some little math real quick? I don't do math when I'm not at work. About 30 minutes.
Yeah, sub 30 minutes.
That's insane. What's the Falcon 9 loading time?
48, I think.
Yeah, they're gonna smoke that.
And they're moving how many Falcon 9s worth of propellant?
What is it, 10? Or actually more than that, right?
Yeah, because the methane messes it up because the kerosene is a lot denser.
Yeah. Yeah, that's still extremely impressive. And then over here, the pad where the methane pumps will go. Wait. Yeah, that's right here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about the same length, right? Do you think they'll be?
There's room for.
Surely they don't need 9, right?
There's electrical stub outs for it looks like 8 of those frames, and there were 9 for on the LOX side.
Okay.
Which even 8 for the methane.
Seems like a lot.
Well, when they stretch the ship, but still, it seems excessive.
Yeah, I agree. Very, very interesting. And they also have these new vertical tanks here, which we believe are for methane, considering they're near all the other methane components over here. I don't believe we've figured out what's going on with that yet because they haven't piped anything up yet. And same goes for those 2 methane tanks that they installed several months ago. They're just sitting here, not being used currently. So lots of unused items in here currently. We talked about this before the show. This tank right here, which has been here forever, never used it. Before the show, I was saying that maybe they have some plans on swapping these out for larger tanks, given that we did see those large tanks coming from KSC. But as Dave pointed out before the show, those are actually going to McGregor. So the hopes of seeing them actually increase the size of these tanks seems to be gone.
I think it's going to happen.
You think so? Eventually?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, overall, the amount of LOX storage you have in comparison to methane. So basically, you have, 7 LOX tanks?
8.
8?
Yeah, all 3 of those are LOX.
Oh, yeah. And you do have 7 methane tanks, but they're way smaller. Actually, technically, you have 9 if you consider these, but we don't know what those are for. So yeah, it's very. This thing is just massive. The whole tank farm. Like looking at it this is like the complete opposite. This is exactly what they didn't want to happen when they initially started this, which is why they built those vertical tanks, because they did not want this to happen. But overall, I think this is probably better. It looks scary having all of this propellant in one place, but I think it would have been very similar, the amount of capacity that they had with those vertical tanks. Go ahead.
Yeah, the other thing, they could run these tanks at a higher pressure, which is a bit helpful for the pumps. I think it's one of the reasons we haven't seen any of the impellers getting replaced since they switched to these.
Right. What's going on down here? Is this just the driveway?
No, that's where the
Oh, wait.
everything's popping out of the ground, out of the commodities.
Right. Okay. Yeah, right next there. So they're just filling in this concrete. I think they already did that. I believe I saw a concrete pumper over here over the last few days. But there's several locations where they're laying concrete. Could have also been over in here where that power distribution facility is going to be.
From
Beyond that, sorry, go ahead.
from R2, it looked like they've been working on the pipes coming out of the ground there, so I'm assuming that portion's already been finished being concrete.
Okay. Yeah, this is quite impressive, the amount of work it takes to send all of this over to that other launch site. I do wonder if we'll see them kind of duplicate this down here. So like while they're redoing pad A, I imagine they may want to redo these as well too, or at least add in whatever's missing from the pad B stuff over here. But yeah, that we'll have to wait and see on that. Probably be about this time next year when we're talking about that.
It'd be nice if they could figure out to connect the two so they had redundancy.
Yeah, I agree. So they could fill it from either side.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let's see what else. They have extended this wall, protecting the tanks. And that, as you can tell, it's really cut down the amount of space that they have available for moving boosters and ships through here. Very thin pathway. I mean, this is... Oh, okay. It's about the same width as the actual road. So not too bad. But yeah, you can tell that this wall... actually...
It's going to go all the way.
It's going to be... Yeah, it'll probably go all the way over.
Yeah, at least to that new pad that they're pouring.
Right. Yeah, that is... I mean, it's going to look really cool once it's actually done. Looking at it from this side. Actually, sorry. I'm trying to find a better angle of it. These aren't the greatest for trying to show that. But yeah, I'm sure you guys get the point. Crazy. Overall, just crazy what is going into this. You know, I remember when they were building the one for the initial tank farm, I thought that was impressive. But in my opinion, I think this is improved tenfold from what they had before. Okay. Anything else in this area that I should probably mention or missed?
I don't think so. They've finally finished all the conduits they were putting in for the last couple of weeks, but that's about
down
all.
here?
And across D2.
Oh, in this area?
Yeah, and they cross the driveway there, but that's all been finished up.
Did they go in front of the driveway?
Yeah, they cut right across there where your cursor is.
Okay. Yeah, so it seems like they're joining the power, like it's all combined into one circuit instead of like, you know, having two individual supplies on each side. So that's interesting. Cool. Let's see. I guess finally we can go over to Pad A, which not a ton to talk about over there, but we are nearing that launch. Have they painted the launch mount yet?
No, I was joking in one of the channels that they're trolling you.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. I was like, what is going on with this? Because I saw some ground images yesterday and I was like, okay, I'm guessing they're not going to paint this. I have a feeling they still will, but it's just weird that it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, they painted some of the legs on the tower, but that's it. Oh, and the abomination of the cladding is just staring at me.
Yeah, let's go ahead and look at that from another angle. See the new cladding added onto here. I believe, is it just these pieces right here, or is it, because all of this was here before? the black one.
Yeah,
So it's just these pieces right here.
I believe
Did they
so.
add any onto the other side?
I think so. There is some cladding still on the ground, but to be honest, I haven't been watching this side because nobody has good shots of what they've been doing. They've been
That is very
modifying
true.
the cableway too.
On the chopsticks?
No, there's no you can't tell, but the main cable or plumbing racks in front were at the offload area, but we have no shots of it, unfortunately.
Are you talking about the tank farm?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
yeah. It's the same thing. Nobody's been having cameras on this side.
Gotcha. Yeah. And oh, there's those other cladding pieces that I'm assuming are probably in place now,
I should hope so.
right? Well, yeah, like I said, we're, as far as we know, still is expecting a launch on Monday. I personally think that it's going to get pushed. I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being Friday, or maybe Wednesday. But to me, Monday doesn't really seem realistic. But I would love to be proven wrong on that, honestly. So I guess with that, we will go ahead and touch on some questions. We're about 2 hours and 15 minutes into the show since we started a bit late. But Astro Joe, what do we have?
Well, I would like to thank our channel friends Darth Lawrence and Martin for 5 gifted memberships apiece, as well as our friend Astro Knucklehead for gifting a membership as well. Terry Pavlik with a $30 super chat saying happy 200th. Thank you for that. And Sharpie also with a $10 super chat. Happy 200th flight. Looking forward to more. Yeah, we all are. Thank you all for that support. It's wonderful. Question from Mr. Biffex back on the ship catching subject. Would the chopsticks just hold the ship while the QD arm attaches to detank after the catch?
So the detanking the ship, I guess the question is really how much detanking actually happens after landing. I believe, especially with the booster, like the propellant levels are so low that it's below the point where they can actually detank it anyways. So they kind of just let it boil off. And I think we may end up seeing something similar with the ship where they just let it boil off. That's what they did with SN15 after it landed. It just basically sat there on the landing pad and boiled off all the remaining propellant and kind of just vented it to atmosphere. So I think we'll probably see something like that, and then they'll bring in probably the equivalent of a red team and get those SPMTs underneath there, and then lower the ship down onto there, and probably be a mostly drone job as far as verifying anything goes. I imagine they may not have anybody on site when they're actually lowering it onto the transport stand. But yeah, I mean that's going to be the case for the first few ship catches until they reach the point where the tiles are in a state where they can be rapidly reused. We'll probably always see the ship get placed back down on a transport stand. I would say at least the first 5 or 6 times, if not more. So yeah, that's just something we'll get used to.
Yeah, the logistics of trying to drain the ship, unless they put some ground level ship QD, it's kind of not really feasible.
Yeah, exactly. Which they have had in the past, but I don't see that happening here.
There shouldn't be much left in those header tanks after the landing anyway, and the main tanks will have been vented in space.
Agreed.
That's all I got, my friends. My queue is clear.
Cool. Awesome. Well, with that said, I want to thank everybody in the chat who's hit that like button on the stream. We really appreciate all of you. Thanks for all of the donations as well. I believe I know the initial plan was for another flyover tomorrow. I'm not sure if that's still the plan or if it may get pushed out until after the launch. But either way, we should have another show next week, as long as weather cooperates. So hopefully next time we'll be covering the aftermath of the launch as well too. And I'm sure there'll be tons of new updates as well elsewhere as far as Sanchez and launch site and all that stuff. So yeah, I will catch you all next week. Thank you, Alex, for helping me out today, and Astro Joe for handling all the questions and donations, and obviously all of the mods, and Astro Jen for setting everything up for us. And with that, I will go ahead and pass it off to Alex.
Thank you, Zach. It was a great show, like always, and hopefully we get a launch sooner than midweek. And Joe, it's off to you.
All right, I will echo that sentiment. Zach and Alex, it's always great sharing the stream with you. Mauricio and RGV team, thank you for 200 flights. That is just amazing. Thanks for that shout out to Jen there, Zach. We appreciate that. She appreciated that very much. And thanks, Inland, for turning the knobs and pushing the buttons. With that, I will let you know that it is time for most engines cut off. Hot staging confirmed. Love you, bye.